Mamadou Gajaga, and this is QTV News. We're coming to you live from our studios along Karaba Avenue. Thank you for joining us. First, here are the main news headlines. Day 4 of the filing of nominations saw one presidential aspirant promising to build a wall separating Gambia and Senegal. The day featured 2 independents and 2 party leaders submitting their forms. The Ministry of Health has announced a nationwide mass polio vaccination campaign for children under 5 following the discovery of the poliovirus type 2 in the country. As the world commemorates the International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists, the President of the Gambia Press Union, Mohamed S. Ba, says Gambian journalists had a bitter experience during the former regime. A €7 million grant agreement to support agriculture was signed on Monday by the Ministry of Agriculture with the French Development Agency and the International Fund for Agricultural Development. Those were the main news headlines, and now the news in detail. Welcome and thank you for joining us. We welcome all our viewers around the world and those listening to us on Cube Radio. Day 4 of filing of nominations featured 2 independents and 2 of the party leaders submitting their forms to for the job of president of the Gambia. Among other things, we learned that there was no 2 Mamadou Bas, as the one who was previously called Mamadou Ba II admitted to the IEC chairman that his name had been incorrectly filed in with the IEC. He also provided the most headline-grabbing policy statement, that is, to build a wall separating Gambia and Senegal. More in this report.
At 9:40 a.m., Mamadi K.S. Kamara, an independent candidate, presented his nomination papers. Unusually, for this election's nomination process, he was unaccompanied. He counted out the $10,000 fee and handed it over. The rules and regulations were read to him, and he was instructed he would have to sign the related code of conduct. He explained the symbols he would use for his campaign: a cow, scales, and something else. Apparently, the candidate had appeared informed before the commission the day before that, and having expressed a wish to withdraw, he would contest after all. He was instructed that, as with all candidates, the nomination would be available for public scrutiny from Saturday, 6th November. In 12 minutes, that part was all over, but it was not the end of the drama. Mr. Kamara gave a brief address to the press, explaining his history and background, including an incident in which he says he was assaulted and declared dead. "I want justice to prevail. I am 63 years old, and still I am fighting," he said. He became quite touchy with the press. Asked if he wanted revenge or justice, he said he wanted justice. He did not say what, if any, policies he had for the job of president. Mama Kande, the Gambia Democratic Congress candidate, started making his way towards Election House. The party was formed in 2016, and Mama Kande has been the party's leader since then. The party came with a list of 250 people who would be allowed in to accompany their leader into the grounds of the Electoral Commission. In the previous election, he polled 17.1% of the vote, coming in third behind now President Adama Barrow and ex-President Yahya Jammeh. Mama Kande was driven in an open-top vehicle surrounded by supporters in the purple of his party and the green of some APRC members who did not support the coalition with President Barrow's NPP. Dr. Ismaila Cisse of the Citizens Alliance was next, and he too arrived with some supporters and presented his papers. There seemed a moment when some required documents could not be found, including the letter from the party nominating him as their candidate.
We went by this advice. There is nowhere indicated that you needed a letter from the party showing that they are sponsoring a candidate.
After that moment passed, Dr. Cisse spoke to the media at length, setting out his party's vision and responded to questions from the media. He said his top priorities were governance and finance reforms. Secondly, jobs, particularly for the 40% unemployed youth in the country. Third priority, he listed as reform of the education system to give the country one that was fit for purpose to guide the education system towards the jobs the country needs. He spoke of reparations for victims of human rights abuses and that perpetrators, not just ex-President Jammeh, should face justice. The second aspirant, called Mamadou Ba, referred to as Mamadou Ba II, was the final one to present. He spoke to the press before handing in his papers without undue fuss and spoke about various issues, including tackling corruption, which seems to be a favorite topic of candidates and the press, who keep asking about the topic. However, his most significant statement was to come after he had presented his papers. On appearing before the IEC chairman, he admitted that he had incorrectly filed his name and that he is Mamadou, not Mamadou. He provided the headline of the day in his speech to the press, saying if elected, he would build a wall separating the Gambia from Senegal to stop the menace of drugs coming into our country.
No political party is talking about the Gambia-Senegal border. You can see a lot of people have been arrested dealing in this drug. And then my first 100 days in office, I'm going to, together with the Senegalese government, we're going to have a long fence between Gambia and Senegal.
Mahmoud Lamin Choi, QTV News.
Well, quite interesting, a war between Gambia and Senegal. The Ministry of Health has announced a nationwide mass polio vaccination campaign for children under 5. The vaccination campaign comes following the discovery of the polio virus type 2 in the country in August and the declaration of a public health emergency. Lamin Choi again.
In response to a polio outbreak in the Gambia, the Ministry of Health is set to roll out a nationwide vaccination campaign to break transmission of the virus. The campaign is scheduled to last from the 13th to 16th November this year. The vaccination teams and social mobilizers will visit households, health facilities, marketplaces, ferry and border crossing points.
We thought that we have eradicated wild polio, and we eradicated that. But this form that is surfacing now is if left uncontrolled, can create the same problem as the wild polio virus. That is why the global polio eradication is doing all what it can to work with countries to ensure that we are able to organize a successful nationwide campaign wherein we will vaccinate all children from 0 to 59 months.
The polio virus type 2 was discovered in the Gambia in August through an environment sampling from Banjul and Kotu. This outbreak, which has also been recorded in some other African countries and other parts of the world, is a cause for concern for health experts, who warned that if the virus spreads from an unvaccinated child to another in communities with low immunization coverage, over the course of about 12 to 18 months, it can mutate and cause paralysis.
As the previous campaign, we are going to every household in this country to make sure that every child is vaccinated against polio virus to protect them. If we don't do that, there is a possibility that this virus will come into the human population, as it is happening in some of the neighboring countries like Senegal, Mauritania. As I'm talking to you, they have typical polio outbreak where children are being paralyzed.
Polio is a crippling and potentially fatal infectious disease which has no cure. However, vaccination is recognized as the safest, most cost-effective means of combating the virus and provide comprehensive coverage which can protect a child for life.
No, globally, the supply, there's only one manufacturing industry for the virus. In our stock, we have enough. We have about 300-something thousand children. That's been discovered. So we have, just a few days ago, we received our supplies. So now, what is important here? For anybody who has a child under 5, should make sure that they don't skip. Otherwise, as I'm saying, what is happening in other countries will happen. You will see an outbreak of polio, paralytic polio in this country, and we don't want to see that in this country.
According to the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, there are 6 reported positive samples of polio virus in the Gambia. For a comprehensive vaccination coverage, parents, caregivers, community and religious leaders are advised to support the process by getting children under 5 years vaccinated.
We need to congratulate Gambian mothers, Gambian children, everybody in the Gambia, the fathers, and we always want the fathers to come on board. You see, taking the child to the immunization is not only the responsibility of the mother. Where the mother is busy, the father can do it. But here sometimes it's always the opposite. Everything we have the mother. So when this child is paralyzed, it becomes a family matter.
The polio virus in the early 20th century was considered the most feared disease in many countries around the world, paralyzing hundreds of thousands of children, including in the Gambia. In response, in the 1950s and 60s, the introduction of a vaccine brought the virus under control and eliminated it as a public health problem in many countries. Mohamed Lamin Choi, QTV News.
As the world commemorates International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists, the president of the Gambia Press Union, Mohamed S. Bah, says Gambian journalists had a bitter experience during the former regime and would not want a repeat of the past. Ajibintu Drame spoke to him and others in commemoration of the day, and this is the report.
Journalists can play a key role in most societies by informing the public about the world they live in. However, searching or reporting the news or stories can be risky, especially if one's investigations or reporting comes up against the powerful. In the last decade, on average, one journalist has been murdered every 4 days. Many of these journalists were killed in countries with no armed conflicts. And between 2006 and 2020, more than 12,000 journalists were assassinated. Unfortunately, the killers walked free in 9 out of 10 cases, according to UNESCO Observatory for Killed Journalists. In the Gambia, as an important election approaches, some have expressed fears that harassment of journalists may occur. Mohamed S. Bah, the newly elected president of the Gambia Press Union, says Gambian journalists have a bitter experience on the former regime, which they don't wish to see repeated.
The other thing is to also have legal framework that will protect the journalists, like having national safety policy on journalists. We don't have it in the Gambia. We have, strictly laws that outline the protection of journalists specifically, as very important stakeholders in the development of this country, and also making sure that whosoever is found wanting, because we've seen a lot of harassment. GPU has recorded numerous harassment in this new Gambia, and then more often what happened is perpetrators are just let to go scot-free.
This day not only focuses on the killing of journalists, but seeks to raise awareness about harassment, whether physical or online, which disproportionately targets women journalists. Binta Jallo, a radio and TV presenter, explains her experience.
There was a guy who was trying to have a contact with me, like have my WhatsApp number. I was like, I don't give out my WhatsApp number to people I don't know. He was like, maybe because you think you have a big wang, that's why you are saying that you should not give me your number. But sometimes also you may be passing, not even online, and people will be like, so, I don't know what that is. Sometimes you feel very uncomfortable, even to walk properly, you can't, because it's like they are harassing you, I can see. What I will say to the GPU is that they should try and help us to overcome this cyberbullying and sexual harassment.
Therese Gomez, Program Officer for Welfare and Safety at the GPU, says journalism is a noble profession and plays an important role in society. Therefore, journalists should be able to operate in a safe and secure atmosphere without interference.
I've had text messages where people, they just want to come for you. People just want to challenge you. As a female, we're not known. People are used to seeing us being behind the scenes or not in front of everybody. So when they see us challenging society's perceptions, they want to challenge you as well.
Nasiruddin, Freedom of Expression Officer at the GPU, says for the upcoming election, the GPU has held talks with security officers and political parties and secured hundreds of jackets to be distributed to journalists to ensure their safety during and after elections. Every year as this day is commemorated, the hope is that journalists can hold up a mirror to the powerful without having to be in fear of their lives. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
That report by Ajibintu Drame takes us to a commercial break, and when we return, we'll still have some more stories for you. Do stay tuned.
such exceptional prices, impossible to miss the Butty Days. It's the unmissable appointment of Buttimat from the 30th of October to the 13th of November. Take advantage of exceptional discounts up to 50% off on several product families. The best quality, price ratio for the best of construction. It's at Buttimat, so don't wait anymore. Let's hit the road for the Butty Days. Buttimat, everything for construction, from foundation to finishing.
Welcome back, and thank you very much if you're just joining us. This is QTV News. A €7 million grant agreement was signed on Monday by the Ministry of Agriculture with the French Development Agency and the International Fund for Agricultural Development to support the implementation of the project Resilience of Organization for Transformative Smallholder Agriculture, otherwise known as ROOTS. Ajibintu Drame tells us more.
Agriculture is a vital sector in the Gambia that accounts for about 17.8% of GDP, whereas its production is popularly carried out by women, done in small-scale business or production. This project, which will run for 6 years, aims to improve food security, nutrition, and smallholder farmers' resilience to climate change in the Gambia. The agreement will support the Gambia government in transforming its agricultural sector and food systems, particularly in rural areas. Hawa Sienta, from the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, and country director of the Gambia, says eradicating rural poverty and hunger requires the development of rural economies, especially for women.
In order to ensure that the fund is really well utilized and reach the target beneficiary, we have also checks on balance that are put in place, meaning we have regular supervision mission. You see my colleagues behind, we are actually here to go through a supervision mission of the project. Like I said, it started since last February, and we also have annual audits that are mandatory.
Awa explains what she expects at the end of the project.
What we are doing this program is that with the 80 million, by the end of implementation, we will ensure that we have help in the food security. We have created job for the youth by bringing women in the same project, because we know not only in the Gambia but also in some country, land ownership is a serious issue. So we are helping women to have access to land. At the end of the project, we are expecting to reach 40,000 households.
Philippe Lallieu, France ambassador to Senegal and the Gambia, says the project is an ambitious initiative to increase agricultural productivity, enhance access to markets for agricultural products, and support family farms and farmers' organizations.
The Gambia remains dependent on food imports. They produce, for example, 17% of its annual consumption of rice. And to say it in other words again, the country needs a strong agricultural sector to feed its own people.
Maintaining and sustaining similar projects in the Gambia proves to fail. Hassan Jallo, Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Agriculture, says there are high hopes for this project.
We have done the groundwork so that the farmers can increase their production and productivity. And now what we need to do is to how to process them, storage areas, processing it properly, packaging and entering the market also. For example, rice, milling machines, bagging them in the country and all those things. So yes, those were the challenges, but now all the projects that we are formulating also are going into that direction. So yes, it's not a process that you do something and then the success is all over, but then it's the building blocks to a certain outcome. And then I think, yes, all these projects are achieving mostly achieving those objectives.
The French Development Agency, AFD, is a public financial institution that implements the policies defined by the French government that seeks to combat poverty and promote sustainable development, while IFAD invests in rural people, empowering them to reduce poverty, increase food security, nutrition, and strengthen resilience. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
Now, the Ministry of Information, Communication Infrastructure, MOICI, in partnership with UNESCO and NATCOM on Saturday, commemorated National Cybersecurity Awareness Day at the Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara International Conference Center. As Yahya Jao reports, the awareness-raising campaign is part of MOICI's Pillar 5 National Cybersecurity Policy 2020 to 2024.
This national awareness raising on cybersecurity aims to enlighten the public about the importance of cybersecurity and enable them to have a comprehensive understanding of cyber risks and threats, given increased cybercrime and attacks in cyberspace. At the event, Malang Bas, deputizing for the Minister of Information, Communication and Infrastructure, Ibrahim Silla, says cybersecurity and cybercrime are at the forefront of the ministry's priorities. He says MOICI has made significant strides to ensure the necessary policies and strategies are in place for a smooth digital transformation.
You may agree with me that the internet has become perhaps #1 addiction of the 21st century. This makes it very pertinent for the government to put in place policies and strategies to adequately address the accompanying issues.
Nicholas Jata, the Director of ICT at the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, PURA, says the national virtual systems need to be protected and that there is a need for people to be aware of the risks associated with the use of the internet. He says PURA, along with other players, are making efforts to ensure that the best socio-economic benefits of technology are achieved in the country.
70% of the world's 15 to 24-year-olds are now online, and the internet has revolutionized the way we do business.
Mamadou Baji, the National Security Advisor, and Lamin Jaju of NATCOM both commented on the importance of commemorating the event, saying combating cybercrime and attacks needs concerted efforts from government and individuals.
The team tends to empower individuals, institutions and organizations to own their own role in protecting part of the cyberspace.
The availability of the internet to carry out useful functions online, such as financial transactions, e-payment systems, electronic trade and education, etc., have given criminals, particularly hackers, to use the internet as a fertile ground to commit atrocious crimes.
Sanusi Drame, Principal ICT Officer at MOICI, says the program is meant to raise cybersecurity awareness to ensure the public knows how to protect themselves. He added that cybersecurity also involves putting in place policies, rules and procedures to increase cybersecurity in the country. This, he says, is part of MOICI's awareness-raising campaign strategy.
The ministry has formulated and validated the National Cybersecurity Policy Strategy and Action Plan of 2020 to 2024. This action plan is intended to address issues regarding both cybersecurity and cybercrime.
Cybersecurity is paramount to protect lives and property from cyber criminals, as it enhances people's and entities' effective participation in digital technology usage without hindrance. However, tackling the problem of cybersecurity and attacks within the cyberspace involves putting in place strong legal instruments and policies to improve national security as well as protect the digital services applications and infrastructure of the country's internet system. Reporting for QTV News, I am Yahya Jao.
During last year's government-imposed lockdown, gymnasia across the country also closed operations to help reduce the spread of the COVID-19 virus. As the pandemic gradually eases, Abibatu Cisse visited the QCT Gym and Fitness Center to assess the impact. Here is our report.
The COVID-19 lockdown resulting in the closure of business activities, public places, fitness and activity centers, and most social life has hampered many aspects of the lives of the people worldwide. Due to the surging number of cases in the Gambia, recreation centers and sporting activities were suspended, forcing many to abandon physical exercise and others to do it in their own way or at home without instructors. At the QCT Gym and Fitness Center in Bijulo, Mike Johnson, the supervisor, explains how the lockdown affected the center.
This pandemic has disturbed the operation here. At least we were at home for 9 months. We couldn't do anything. Every place was shut down. And then people wanted to come and to look after themselves, do their body feeds, and then we sitting at home, it consumed a lot of stress. And to come to the gym is a stress-free area. So it's like it affected so many things, affected so many people that they couldn't achieve what they want.
Lack of physical activity can have negative effects on the health, well-being, and quality of life of individuals. Mamadou Gaye, the instructor at the fitness center, explains the importance of physical exercise.
Different people come to the gym for different purposes. Some people come to build their muscles, body fitness. Some people come to lose their body weight. They have so many fat scabs in their body. They would like to bring it down to have a good health condition. And some are even advised by doctors even to come over for health condition, to come and have some exercises to maintain their health.
The World Health Organization recommends 150 minutes of moderate intensity or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity physical activity per week, or a combination of both for adults 18 to 64 years. Mamadou Gaye says the fitness center has resumed operations and urges Gambians to join the center.
Come over to QCT to join the gym so that they can gain much of their fitness and even to maintain their health condition. Before sitting, waiting for the doctors to advise you come to the gym to maintain your health, you should have even come over to even do it yourself before you are advised by a doctor.
Physical exercise can improve one's health by reducing the risk of developing various severe diseases, improve brain health and weight management, among others. Although life is slowly getting back to normal, we must not forget that the COVID-19 pandemic is still with us, and we should continue adhering to the WHO preventive guidelines and exercise regularly to be physically active and stay healthy. For QTV News, I am Abibatu Cisse.
And that's it for QTV News. Don't forget to join us at 10 for another bulletin.